As someone who's been playing Fall Guys for a little over 4 years, I've experienced a drought of Legacy Season 6, the second revival with Season 1 free-for-all, and bore witness to nearly every controversy the game has seen in its over half a decade of existence. However, what I am about to talk about, if left unchanged, could usher in a new era of drought and boredom, and honestly, the future of Fall Guys is looking bleak. On September 16, 2025, CyberSW2 made a post on Twitter revealing that Mediatonic added cosmetics for the game's 6th anniversary. The 6th anniversary is about 11 months away, or on August 4th, along with adding a ton of cosmetics, celebrations, and emoticons for the next 2 ranked cycles. And for those who don't know, ranked cycles in this case actually is talking about ranked knockout. And those basically last until the end of an update, and usually updates last for 2 months. I want to say most of them nowadays last for 2 months. So basically 2 rank cycles, that's about 4 months. All of this are in the game's files and will be scheduled to release throughout the year. Effectively, Mediatonic have prepared for a long winter. We even know what the lobby backgrounds are going to be right up until January 2027. Cyber would later add this image to her original tweet. And you may think, so what? It's only cosmetics and having a stockpile of them is normal and a smart thing to do. While reading through this post, I noticed something, or a lack of something. So I decided to ask FG Muffins, someone who used to leak Fall Guys content, and she said there wasn't a single sign of any new levels or objects in creative mode in the CMS or in the game files. It got to a point where Mediatonic made a small statement over on their official Twitter page on September 17th, and this has to be the most tone-deaf nothing burger response of all time. It's basically things we already know, but you know what's missing from this post? New levels and new objects in creative mode. Why were those not mentioned? This felt like a knee-jerk reaction made by an unpaid intern. I hope we get a proper statement in the future, but I doubt we ever will. I'll quickly talk about the Slime Factory update, or the current one as of the recording of this video, released on September 16th, 2025, and just to make it simple, calling this an update is like calling a pond a lake. First of all, this update didn't add any new Mediatonic creative made levels, which hasn't happened since the November 2024 update, aka 11.4. And while insignificant, we didn't even get a key art for this update, which hasn't happened since the Halloween update, aka 11.3. We didn't even get any new objects or just anything in creative mode, and the last time that happened was on the June 2024 update, aka 11.0. While I'd love to say this update is a one-off, but with the DATAMINE, they've basically put the game on autopilot for at least 4 months. They even updated the Valentine's and April Fool's variants, so February and April 2026 are going to be dead months without much new content except for the odd live event, which will require you to play a recycled limited time mode. One good thing I will say is that we got some player made levels in Spectacular Squads Ranked, and I could see them doing this for future creative mode LTMs, so kudos to them for doing that. Websites like Fall Guys Database and Cloud Seeker allow players to see game modes that are currently live and also ones that are coming soon. Let's just say most of them except for one are ones that we've already played a dozen or so times, so it's safe to say we'll be getting recycled LTMs until further notice. Listen, I'm not someone who blindly hates on things. Well, I like to think so anyways. If Mediatonic does good, I'll make a video about it, like them releasing Mastery Ranked mode, or my video going over the Scrapper Stumble update, the Tropical Tides update. However, that doesn't mean I don't call them out. Make quite a few videos on that, such as the terrible Crown Wreck expansion, or how the first week of Fall Forever was garbage. I try and give Mediatonic the benefit of the doubt, especially after the mass layoffs in September 2023. However, as someone who's been with the game since March of 2021, I've seen the mass vaulting era of Season 2 Side Scramble and Season 3 Sucker Secrets, the horrible levels made by Team Fall Guys when Season 4 Critical Construction released, and I say this with no exaggeration, Mediatonic have effectively put the game on life support, leaving the game to slowly decay. When the people behind the game stops caring, why should we? It just feels like Mediatonic are coasting along, relying on the odd casual who just plays the game once a month to buy a bundle or Fame Pass. The fact that we will not be getting any new levels from Team Fall Guys or any new creative mode objects objects, or heck, not even any new music. The last we got was called Of Fables and Falling, and that released in the Fallen Fantasy update, aka 11.6. Because all of that is truly baffling and a cause for concern. It truly feels like they just gave up. And what's funny is, we wouldn't have known about this if people didn't go digging in the game files. It's truly difficult being optimistic about this game, because every time they do an ounce of good, it's just countered by like 30 kilograms of rhino crap. Even though we've been getting updates about every 1 to 2 months, most of the updates released post Fall Forever, with Scrapper Stumble and Tropical Tides to a lesser extent being the exception, has made the game stale, predictable, and boring as a result. And if left unchecked, I personally feel like it's about to get a whole lot worse. We truly will not be getting any new meaningful content for months. This drought could approach Legacy Season 6 levels, and I doubt there's a Season 1 free-for-all on the horizon. Really, the most logical option is that Fall Guys is going to be added to Fortnite, and like, there's a slim chance we could get a Fall Guys 2 with the Unreal Engine, but again, it's most likely the game gets absorbed into Fortnite, especially since there was Fall Guys content in Fortnite if I recall correctly. I'm not really too sure about Fortnite. I didn't really follow the whole Fortnite x Fall Guys thing, so comment below and let me know if there was any content, because I think there was. But anyways, the thing with Fall Guys is that it's much more enjoyable if you play it after a few months, since these updates are so incremental that playing them update to update is painful. Mediatonic have been trying to be off hands with the game for years now. Creative mode gave players the keys to generate the content for them, much like how it's done in Roblox. They even had a secret Discord with some of the best map makers in the community and added their levels to Knockout. However, they'd stopped the program and decided that only their levels would be included. And really, the game hasn't changed much in its over half a decade run, which is commendable in some ways, since some games can change their whole identity and lose its original appeal. However, after a while, playing the same old levels and events that aren't that different from the last one, it can get boring after a while. And while they've introduced power-ups, most of the levels in Knockout don't really use them all that much. And I can't remember the last time they introduced a new power-up. It's been a while. I feel they really should have doubled down on power-ups, you know what I mean? It just feels like that would have been the greatest way to actually just change up the Fall Guys formula. Fall Guys has rebooted the game twice. Once in Season 1 free-for-all, where the game became free to play, and the second time with creative mode and ditching the Unity game engine. It was a risky move to stop using the engine you've built your game on. In the long term, creative mode has come quite the ways, and people have built incredible levels with it, including Mediatonic themselves. And I believe it's allowed them to focus on adding quality of life changes and unvaulting most of the classic levels that were gone for years. However, centering your game around a mode that's limited and so young, especially back then, leads to levels that are limited in their design. The thing with every season of Fall Guys is that it introduced at least 1 or 2 maps that were unique and never done before. Button Bashers, Power Trip, Pipe Dream, Sweet Thieves, Pixel Painters, Cracker Slam, and more. Say what you will about those levels in particular, and yes, while you can recreate some classic levels in creative mode and people have to great effect, is the fact that Mediatonic weren't limited by their own creation. It just feels like Epic Games left Mediatonic to their own devices and threw them collab opportunities to put in their store. But that's just my speculation theory. Maybe they're a lot more involved with the creation process, but it just doesn't feel that way to me. As much as I dunked on SS2 or Season 2 Side Scramble, it was truly the last unique season. It added a ton of variations and really cool events. The wormhole variations were incredible. Let's hope they bring those variations back. But the people who made the game I fell in love with back in 2021 probably don't work at Mediatonic anymore. I hate using this word and have avoided doing so for the longest. However, I truly do think the game is dead, as in we're literally not going to be getting any new content for the foreseeable future, and that's as good as dead in my eyes. Well, you could say the game is in a coma, but regardless, I truly do hope I'm wrong and that we do get some new levels and objects in creative mode. Do I think the game will shut down in a year? No, I don't think it will. I think the average consumer will continue to spend money on cosmetics and fame passes without knowing the game was on autopilot, especially the casuals who play this game once or twice a week. And really, games like these rely on a small percentage of whales, or people who spend a ton of money. Now, does a game like Fall Guys have whales? Your guess is about as good as mine. Mediatonic didn't really innovate during the creative construction era. They were rebuilding from the ground up, which was cool to witness, maybe not during the moment. However, the average player doesn't care about making maps, they want to play them. And since Mediatonic couldn't make the maps at the caliber they used to, it led to most of its player base to abandon the game. And their recent decisions haven't helped either. The fact that Bean Hill Zone was the only collaboration map we ever got is insane, and we can't even play that for whatever reason, and I doubt it'll be coming back. The lackluster updates, sparse updates to creative mode, recycled LTMs and live events that are copy-pasted but slightly adjusted were really hurting the game, and really the lack of innovation to the actual gameplay itself. But the decision to put the game on autopilot effectively means any significant development has stopped, and if the Slime Factory update aka 21.0 has shown us, we're about to enter in a new era of drought. Special thank you to our Max Store aka $5 members, Jump It Runnin', Theater Tour, Exody Profi, Scrawny, MC Speedrun, and Nova Gerbier for your support as always.